Welcome to my presentation. I'll just give you a very brief introduction about who I am and our company. So I started the company with my best friend actually back in 1998. We were started as a hosting company based in Germany, headquartered in Hamburg. We also have offices in Berlin, Germany, and today we operate 4 data center facilities in Germany. And do things like co-location, dedicated servers, and web hosting services. But back in 2009, there was this rise of the startup culture in Germany. More and more small startups were having great ideas about what to do with the internet, and we were approached by quite a few of them, and they all had a challenge. They had a great idea and a very small budget, but they all wanted to be prepared to scale when they had to. So using the traditional approach with setting up, I don't know, a big server infrastructure was not the right approach for those kinds of companies. So we did some research back in 2009 to find a more efficient way to offer them services. And back in that day, the term cloud was not really used that much. There was also the term utility computing, which was more frequently used. And we actually found a small startup based in California in the USA, having developed a cloud platform for service providers. We implemented that, and with that started our journey into cloud. So my topic today is open cloud, and to get into that topic, I wanted to quickly and briefly talk a bit about open source in general. So the uses of open source has doubled over the years. So this is according to a study, actually last year's study of the Free Software Foundation, where almost 80% of enterprises are using open source to run their IT operations. So that's quite a number. And the importance of open source, especially in the enterprise and in business, is rising. So as I said, 78% use open source software for operations. And this is even rising more because of trends like cloud, big data, etc., which you can really not really conquer without using some type of open source. There's actually only 3% of companies saying that they do not use any open source, so this is like a tiny number. And open source has also become a bit of a standard if you do software development. It's kind of hard to imagine to do software development nowadays without having some open source components like Git or something to put your code in and do things like that. And as I said, open source is also a foundation for things like cloud, big data, and IoT. So talking about reasons for using open source, cost reduction is not really a topic anymore. It was, so in those studies, they are performed every year. There's actually, I have links in my presentation, which I suppose will be available after today. There's a study each year by the Free Software Foundation, and cost reduction was #1 reason until 2014. It's not anymore. Reasons for using open source are security, and security, but by that I mean with open source you can actually look at the code if you want to, if you can, if you need to. So this really enables you to better understand what's in the software. It does not mean that there might not be a security hole somewhere in there, but at least you have the possibility to look into it and find out about it. Also, customization is quite important, especially if you do software development by using open source. And last but not least, the quality is also one of the reasons to use open source. So if you think about things like Linux, Apache, MySQL, those are all, I mean, standards nowadays, and are really high quality software solutions out there, all being open source. So some more reasons for that. Now, coming to the topic of cloud computing, there's actually a quote by Richard Stallman, who is the founder of the Free Software Foundation. Back in 2008, he said, and you can read it up on the screen, about cloud computing, he said, "It's stupidity, it's worse than stupidity, it's a marketing hype campaign. You should not use any web application to do your computing because you lose control." So he said that in 2008. Down there you see Google Trends for the term cloud computing, and as you can see, it must be more than a marketing hype campaign because people are actually doing it nowadays, so he was not right about it. To put this in a more European context, there was a study by Eurostat done in November of 2014, researching the cloud adoption in Europe, and as you can see, it doesn't look that good. So for all the 28 European countries, the average was only 19%, which is quite low. I mean, there's always other statistics showing you different numbers, but if you look at some countries like Finland up there, or even Italy, Sweden and Denmark, you see much higher adoption rates. But you have to keep in mind this was 2014. I do have some more recent numbers. There was a study done by the NSO Malta in 2015, correct, showing that a total of 25.4% of enterprises are actually purchasing cloud services, which was an increase from roughly 18% in 2014. So you can see it's going up there. I did find another study which was done by a research company based in the Netherlands, and they have actually concluded, this was also, this is actually a study from this year, they have concluded that, looking at the German market, for example, that small and medium enterprises, roughly half of them are already using cloud services, and this was an increase from 31% the year before. So it's quite an increase, and if you look at countries like Spain and Netherlands, they are already at above 70% here. So things are changing rather rapidly in regards to cloud. So I don't know if anyone really knows the definition of open cloud. I tried to look something up. I mean, it's kind of difficult to find a true definition. I did find something done by an author, Alex Williams. He was a TechCrunch writer. Nowadays he has his own company, I believe. And in 2012 he actually came up with a definition of what open cloud actually means. So in his definition, an open cloud has to have open APIs. It has to have a developer community that collaborates on developing it, so it can't be just one company doing all the work and calling it open. It must be a collaboration effort. It needs to give users the rights to move data as they wish, so it enables them actually to do that. And as he said, it's a rather funny thing. Open cloud is not a rat's nest of licenses. So it's not a big monolithic architecture with lots of licenses attached. It's actually, it needs to be open source. He also mentioned a few other things in that definition, and I put the link here in here as well, so you can read up on it. He also had a few other aspects saying that an open cloud has to have people who have deep experience in running open source projects. You can't have just one company forming a small community. You have to have people with knowledge in open source. Open cloud enables federation and other aspects, so that's what he believes is open cloud. To name a few platforms out there in the market that may be known to you, Apache Cloud Stack is one open platform. Eucalyptus nowadays is not that big anymore. Back in the day, they tried to basically build or rebuild what Amazon does with their cloud, so that was their kind of goal. I would say from my perspective or our perspective, OpenStack is probably the biggest one out there today and has the biggest market, the biggest penetration in the market. There's also other things, other platforms that I would consider open cloud. If you look at storage, there's probably Ceph I would put into that round of platforms as well. So, talking about benefits. This is what I came up with. So I actually came up with 3 key aspects that I believe are beneficial of using open cloud technology. So the first one is control. The second one is efficiency, and the third one is openness and innovation. And we'll go into more detail into each of those. But keeping in mind those control, efficiency, and openness, to give you an example with OpenStack. So there's a recent study done by Christoph Research, which is a German research company, and they did a big study on OpenStack in the German market, and they came up with these benefits, and I should show them here. Why enterprises are actually using OpenStack, and if you look at those, you will see that my key aspects for using open cloud are actually reflected in here. So an open technology platform, openness, one of the things which was actually the highest rated ones by 37.3% of all people asked in that survey answered open technology platform is one of the main benefits why they are looking at OpenStack or using OpenStack. Higher efficiency in operations was the second most named benefit in using OpenStack, and the other one was having more control on the cloud technology stack. It was not the third, I think it was like the fourth one in the survey. But nevertheless, all those aspects that I named are reflected in the study if you look at OpenStack in the German market. So talking about control, what does it actually mean? Let's just put it all on here. So by using something like OpenStack or an open cloud platform, you can actually keep control on your data because you can understand what the platform, what the software actually does in the back end. You can always access the source code if there's any issues in running the platform. You can actually look at the code. It should give you the possibility to fix issues faster when they happen, or to solve problems faster. And last but not least, it's much easier to customize. Also, and this is certainly true for OpenStack, where I've been mostly involved, it gives you the control to actually influence where this technology is going, because by using one of those open cloud platforms, you become part of the community, and this is really something that if you want to use open cloud, you should really consider doing that to really get into the community, so that you can actually influence the development of new features. And this is the number down here, 65%, is actually also from the study on open source projects. So in 2015, so 65% of all enterprises actively engage in open source projects if they use open source. So it's quite a high number. And last but not least, by using an open cloud platform, you do not have any vendor lock-in. Efficiency. It certainly is reducing development costs if you consider using one of those platforms to build your own operation or your own cloud platform. You don't have to start from scratch. You can use these technologies, customize them, and build your own cloud stack. Development is just done in a faster way, more agile fashion, and that normally leads to a faster time to market. Security and stability is also something in regards to efficiency. So errors can normally be detected much faster in an open platform. So you can fix your security issues much faster. So openness and innovation, which I believe is probably the key, or really the key aspect here. Open APIs. That's certainly, so there was a question before about multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is, at least in my perspective, only possible if you have open APIs. If you have a bunch of closed APIs or APIs where you don't know how that API will work tomorrow, it's very difficult to actually enable any multi-cloud, hybrid cloud scenarios by doing that. So having an open API and the possibility to use it is possibly one of the most important things here. Continuous DevOps strategy. I mean, nowadays it's not development and operation anymore, it's both together. So having an open platform where your operators can actually also do some of the coding or at least influence it, that's a very innovative approach in doing things. And another aspect in regards to innovation, the community around such a project may build features that you don't really think about today, but that you might find very useful tomorrow. So this is something where especially projects like OpenStack innovate really fast and add new features all the time to the platform. So driving innovation forward. And another key aspect which kind of defines an open cloud platform is that normally there's multiple releases of that platform, of that software per year. So having OpenStack as an example, there's 2 main releases every year, which some people actually think is too much, but nevertheless there is lots of innovation going on and lots of new features coming to those platforms. Last but not least, features are often built based on real business requests, because most members of the community actually come from some kind of business, so they all have some, in the back of their heads, they do have some business objectives. So they normally really drive business requests rather than just features which look nice. So now to put all of this a bit more in perspective in regards to Europe, to the European Union. There was a study done by Deloitte on behalf of the European Union, and it looked at the economic impact of cloud over the next 5 years. And I'll just bring up the numbers here, and the link is down there again. So that study actually said that cloud computing in general will add up to almost 450 billion euros to the GDP of the European Union, the EU 28. It may create up to 2.5 million jobs and create up to 300,000 new businesses. So cloud computing does have quite an impact looking at Europe. So this is one of the reasons why the EU actually started. They actually have multiple initiatives, but one here is the European Cloud Computing Strategy, and link down there because you can't read it. I know it's too small. I mean, I can't read it on my screen. You can look it up. There's a strategy by the European Union to drive simpler standards to use fair and easy contracts and drive innovations, and they have certain working groups around that which work on this. And I'm showing this because I believe if you look at this initiative, if you look at the economic impact, then at least my conclusion is that open cloud is something which is really very, very beneficial to all of this. Because, I mean, if you want to have simpler standards, it's certainly good to have open standards or open APIs, right? So this is why I believe that open cloud is actually a good thing for European companies and European businesses to embrace. Because in the study there were it was mentioned that one of the main barriers still is the data location, and making it easier to move your data from, I don't know, one country to the next, from one provider to the next, wherever. So having something like an open cloud in place where you have open APIs, at least moving data should become easier because it's compatible in some way, and you don't have to, I don't know, physically remove your data and put it in somewhere else. So having open standards are very beneficial for this. There's one more aspect that I wanted to briefly mention, federation. So back in 2010, when we were actually using a commercial cloud stack for our operations in our company, we already talked to lots of people within Germany about using cloud, and came to an idea to actually build a federated approach. So we do have customers who want to have resources outside of Germany. Now, we are a small company. We will not build data centers around the world. We are not Amazon. We are not Microsoft. But nevertheless, I would like to help my customers getting that. So the idea was to build up a federation with other providers around the world, having a common platform, and giving customers access to this platform. So one of my customers would log into our control panel, and they can actually select a cloud run by some other company in some other country and spin up resources there if they need to. So when we worked on this in 2010 and 11, OpenStack was just in the beginning, really, and not really there. And the platform that we used back then didn't really have the market penetration necessary to build something like that. But having something like OpenStack or an open cloud might actually make something like this possible. And we're currently talking with other OpenStack providers around Europe about doing something like that. So this is quite an interesting project, which we believe is especially interesting in Europe, because in Europe, every country still has some local regulations, laws, whatever it is, or at least businesses in that country have a certain mindset. So they always prefer to work with locals, even if we talk about cloud. So having a local provider providing them services, but then giving them the chance to actually have it somewhere else is in our opinion a good way to enable this. So one last slide about open cloud versus proprietary solutions. There was actually a quote by Mike Olson. He's the founder of Cloudera, and he made this quote I think 2 years ago, and he said that no dominant platform level software infrastructure has emerged in the last 10 years in closed source. So open cloud versus proprietary, there's no big cloud platform out there which is proprietary. Yes, there is VMware, but even VMware and EMC is very active in the OpenStack community. So in the end, they also see the potential of something open. So open cloud, at least in my opinion, is the way to go. So to conclude, unfortunately, at least in Europe, we're still lagging behind, at least a little bit. I mean, numbers are not always right, and studies are always different. But if you look at all those numbers, we're not there yet. But I believe that embracing open cloud and open cloud solutions is really the way to go, and is something that each of you and anyone out there should really consider before deciding on something else. So with that, I guess we still have like 3 minutes left for questions. You can ask anything, I mean. Any questions? No? No? Did it make sense what I said, or yeah? Okay, at least that. Ah, you're using OpenStack, so well then. Mission accomplished. You are already there. Okay, well then, thank you very much.